I built a platform that uses AI to help business school applicants get admitted. So why am I now making a video about how and why not to use AI? Before I get to that, my name's Mike. I worked at the Stanford Graduate School of Business for 17 years, the last 10 of which I was a director of admissions. I've spent the past few years helping applicants get admitted to the most competitive business schools, and I've developed some innovative tools with AI that make it easier and more accessible for you to get the kind of support that used to involve working with a consultant and would cost you thousands of dollars. If you want to give it a try for free, go to MBAi.app. That's MBAi.app. If you sign up and schedule an intro call, I'll give you a month of full access to the premium application toolkit. No strings, no credit card or subscription you need to cancel, just a free month to try it, and hopefully you'll tell me what you think. When I left the GSB in 2023, there was real concern that business schools would be flooded with essays that were essentially written by AI, that it would be impossible to tell what was real and what was artificial. At the time, we were reading stories about ChatGPT passing the bar exam, drafting essays, and we saw students leaning on AI for class assignments. But now the narrative is flipped. As this admissions cycle kicked off, I've seen dozens of instances where admissions officers claim to be able to spot AI writing a mile away. I've read warnings about schools using AI detection software and how they will deny your application if they think you've used AI. But here's the thing. Anybody that's applying to top business schools in 2026 is using AI. The only question is, how are they using AI, and is it effective? Does it improve their application? And just as important, does it help them think more clearly about the value and potential of business school to achieve their goals? When the admissions process is done right, schools not only curate a group of people that are talented and accomplished and smart, they identify people that are well-positioned mentally and psychologically to fully leverage the business school experience. I worked with hundreds of MBA students, and even at a great school like Stanford, some were much better prepared than others. It wasn't a question of their academic or professional qualifications. It had more to do with motivation and their clarity about what they wanted to get from business school. I'm going to admit, I'm very skeptical that admissions readers can easily detect AI writing. Look, if your essay is the result of nothing more than a simple prompt to ChatGPT, then sure, it will read like AI slop. But when I worked in admissions, I read a lot of bland essays long before AI existed. I read essays from people that were overcoached or undercoached or heavily edited to the point where it felt like it was written by a committee trying to say the right things. Those same essays today would probably be tagged as written by AI. It's not about AI. It's about poor execution, not doing the necessary work that earns you a place in a great school. When I taught leadership classes at Stanford, we talked a lot about emotional intelligence, or EQ, as it was known. There are different definitions of EQ, but the one I always liked best was that emotional intelligence is the ability to think intelligently about your emotions and the ability to use your emotions to think intelligently. Now we have the opportunity and the challenge to develop what is known as augmented intelligence. This is the idea that we can leverage technology, particularly machine learning or AI, to make humans smarter, more productive, even wiser than we can be without it. This is not a given, though. Just as a lot of people have terrible EQ and some people are slaves to their emotions, we can expect that not everyone will develop effective augmented intelligence. A lot of people will do a poor job of using AI to think intelligently. They'll use AI to think less, to take shortcuts, to get an easy answer, when they could be using it to challenge their thinking or expand their understanding or make new things possible. Using AI to take shortcuts is easier than using it to make new things possible. But that's the difference between producing an essay that feels like AI slop and producing something that feels remarkable, and it's a choice you have. So what are some rules of thumb about how to use AI in the admissions process and how not to use it? My examination of this over the last year came about because I was doing two types of work. First, I was studying how the work of corporate managers and leaders was changing with AI adoption. And second, because of my prior admissions experience, I was coaching applicants to top business schools. Now, these are different things, but I saw how AI was being used effectively by some leaders and organizations in terms of planning and strategic thinking, and I felt that that could be applied to admissions. So in the spirit of augmented intelligence, let me suggest 3 things not to do and what to do instead. First, don't use AI to write your material. Use it to help you refine your thinking before you write. Narrating your application is arguably your most important job in the admissions process. But as you're developing what you want to say, AI can play several valuable roles as an analyst, as a junior thought partner, a sounding board, or a constructive critic. AI is especially good at pattern recognition, distillation, and synthesis. Use these strengths as part of your process for building your narrative, so you have a strong basis from which to start writing. Second, don't ask AI to edit your material. Use it to analyze and critique it. Give it specific guidance. For example, review my resume and identify any terms or statements that could be confusing for a generalist that is not familiar with my role, company, or industry. Rank order them in order of importance. And for each instance, suggest 2 to 3 alternative examples that address this issue while minimizing changes overall. The more specific your guidance, the less an LLM reverts to generic phrasing. By asking it to suggest multiple examples, you give yourself the tools to make informed edits rather than accepting a lowest common denominator. Third, don't use AI to make the process easier. Use it to make it better. AI cannot dictate what matters most. I previously suggested it can help you refine your thinking, but always remember it's your thinking. This is where emotional intelligence is more valuable than augmented intelligence. AI can sometimes feel like magic because at its best, it's like having a conversation with the sum total of human knowledge. And that's a powerful thing. But knowledge is not wisdom, and it's not experience. For your application to be really effective, it needs to feel rooted in your experience, and it needs to capture some of your wisdom. AI can be a tool you use, but you're the craftsman. I can imagine you might say, well, if I can't use AI to write or to edit, and I can't use it to make it the process easier, then what am I really even using it to do? Think about it this way. People pay admissions consultants like me thousands of dollars to give them an advantage, to help them improve their application. We don't write their essays. We will suggest edits, and we'll give analysis, judgment, and recommendations. But at the end of the day, the applicant still has to do the work it takes to assemble a strong application. Now, I don't think that AI can replicate everything admissions consultants or coaches do. And I'm actually happy to say that on the whole, I think I have better judgment than today's AI models. But it can play some roles and perform some functions very effectively. In a few areas, maybe better than me. I've trained AI to give prospects that fill out a form and upload a resume a detailed profile review, so applicants can start with a sense of their initial strengths and risk factors for any schools they want to target. I've trained AI to thoroughly review an applicant's academic profile, including their transcripts, then give an assessment and recommendations on how to best address any potential concerns. I've trained AI to assess career goal statements based on a candidate's resume, work history, education, and past activities to help them understand how a school might assess their credibility amongst the recruiters on campus. I've trained AI to critique your resume's structure, formatting, and language to optimize it for the purposes of MBA admissions, which has its own unique requirements. I've trained it to help you draft a briefing document for your recommenders, and I've trained AI to interview you about leadership and personal experiences to help you find and unpack details and examples that can be useful to sharpen your narrative in your essays and other parts of your application. Lastly, I used to train admissions readers at Stanford. Now I've trained AI to conduct a thorough, holistic application review for specific MBA program applications. It can give you a sense of which components of your application are competitive and on which dimensions, and it will offer recommended steps for you to take to strengthen any elements that it flags as needing improvement. This is not built on some simple prompts. In many cases, these tools involve a dozen or more steps in an agentic AI workflow, with each step in the process drawing on prior steps and outcomes, so that it gradually develops enough context to offer more valuable recommendations. You can use ChatGPT or Claude to give feedback on your resume or essays, but the MBAi platform was purpose-built for business school applicants in the admissions process, using my experience working in business school admissions, my experience coaching business school applicants, and my team's experience building AI tools. It's based on examples of work that I do with clients. Now, there's a difference, obviously, working with AI. When working with AI, you should be skeptical. But in all honesty, when working with an admissions expert, you should still be somewhat skeptical. And if working with AI leads you to be more diligent, to maintain full ownership of your material and narrative, that's not a bad thing. Now, I'm not trying to replace admissions consulting. I'm simply trying to make the benefits it can offer more accessible. If it's an option, I suggest hybrid options, where you use AI tools, but you can get support or check the final results of your work with a live coach. This can be more affordable than high-end coaching packages, and in my judgment, has some potential benefits over working 20 or more hours with a single expert. Again, sign up today and schedule an intro call for a free month of access. Absolutely no obligation. You'll never be charged unless you decide to sign up again later. My goal is to help at least 200 people get admitted to their dream school this year. Maybe you're one of them. That's it for today. Remember, if you stop thinking of life as a gift, it'll stop being a gift. Mike out.